What's going on, everybody? This is Clint with the Die Hard MMA podcast. This podcast was filmed exclusively for odds.com. Be sure to click the link below. Check it out. We've got everything that you need over there. We've got you covered for every sport. Thank you so much for the support and good luck on all your action this week. We've got the next fight coming up here. A featherweight fight between Chas the Scrapper Skelly, a fan favorite, and Jamall Emmers. Now, James, I've taken the first three. I'm going to go ahead and lead with you here on this one. How does this fight, size up for you?
Well, first, let's look at the odds on this one. Jamall Emmers is the favorite in this fight. I just got to bring it up here. What do we got? Jamall Emmers about a minus 240 favorite. The comeback on Chas Skelly plus 200. That's how I see this fight as well. A couple things with this fight. Had a chance to speak to both fighters before this one, so got some good insight in terms of what they're dealing with. Chas Skelly has not fought since September of 2019. That's when he beat Jordan Griffin at UFC Vancouver. I was at that fight. I actually went out for drinks with Chas after the fight, so I really got to kind of get some insight with him or whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to cross that line of being unprofessional or whatever. I just happened to be at the hotel after the fact, and there was a bunch of fighters there. It was sort of like the Victory Hotel thing. But you remember that Jordan Griffin fight? I mean, that was a fight where Griffin actually looked pretty good early on, but Skelly was able to survive some of those submission attempts and ended up winning a decision in that fight. So while Skelly did get the win, it was one of those fights where Griffin, I think, had an opportunity to win that fight and he didn't capitalize. So now fast forward to February 2021. That's when this fight is. Skelly has not fought since then. Skelly was supposed to fight Grant Dawson twice last year. Skelly ended up getting injured, I think, the second time. The first time, I can't remember what the issue was. It was something to do with Dawson. It was an issue he had to withdraw. The second one was an injury. I didn't know what that injury was at the time, but I asked him in the interview after, because he was kind of, I believe I spoke to him right after the injury had happened. I said, hey, what's the deal? And he was kind of being secretive about it, but he told me now it was a shoulder injury. So he had to actually get surgery on that. So he's coming off surgery, which is a bit of a red flag. Another red flag is that he's 35, right? So that's another thing to kind of consider here, is that you've got a guy who's got a layoff, he's coming off surgery, and he's a bit older. But Chas Skelly, we know, comes from a great camp. One of a few fighters on this card from Sanford MMA. That you're getting, sometimes the training camp's as tough as the fight, right? With some of the guys they get to train with over there. So Skelly's definitely in good hands in terms of where he's working. Being at Sanford MMA, I think that's a great move. Now, Jamall Emmers, I think is very underrated. 31 years old, comes into this one off the win over Vince Cachero in a fight that, I mean, that's about as close to a beatdown as you can get. And granted, Vince Cachero, tough as nails. I know he's fighting in a couple weeks. All the props to him, but that was a total beatdown from Jamall Emmers. And the fight before that, he lost that split to Giga Chikadze, which I think could have gone either way. I think
that looks good in hindsight, man. Giga's been on a roll.
He has. And I think people forget as well with Jamall Emmers, he has win over Corey Sandhagen. I know it's a different weight class, but if you go back, that was a featherweight fight. That looks like a good win now. So I think Emmers is a guy that's always been sort of, he had his opportunity on Contender Series a couple of years ago against Julian Erosa, absolutely blew it. He got knocked out in the second round by Julian Erosa in that fight. But again, he's a guy that went back, fixed some things. And actually for this camp, he's been working at MMA Gold, which is, full disclosure, I do a podcast with MMA Gold's head coach, Jim West. So I know he's been telling me about what Jamall's been doing. Jamall's sort of been cross-training throughout his career, but he spent a good chunk of his camp at MMA Gold, which I think is a good move. We saw, some of the adjustments that Anthony Hernandez made last week in his fight, getting that big win. So I like the fact that Emmers is over there as well. So kind of what I'm looking at here is, I think this is Emmers' fight to lose. I think it's a good name, good opportunity for him to go out there and capitalize. He's got, really good stand-up, good submissions as well. I think we could see a finish here with Jamall Emmers. So, the line right now, like I said, a little bit steep in terms of it being, what do we got here? Minus 240, almost 3-1 odds there. Jamall Emmers inside the distance right now is plus 225. I think that's worth a stab. We've seen Chas Skelly finish before. Remember when he fought, I think it was Jason Knight, or he lost in the third round in that fight. I think, again, I think Emmers, doesn't want to leave it in the hands of the judges like we saw in the Giga Chikadze fight.
After the last one, you'd think so.
Exactly. So I think it's possible to see a finish here. So I may put a little sprinkle on that, but I'm pretty confident Jamall Emmers gets it done. I know Skelly's been around there. I know he's been in the octagon a long time, but Emmers, I think this is a good opportunity for him to really show the division that he's the real deal. So I'm taking Jamall Emmers in this fight.
I like the way you're thinking here, James, and it's unfortunate because Chas Skelly, like I said, he's kind of a fan favorite. He's a sports bettor. He jumps on, Twitter and talks about the bets he's laying down. He bets
Not
on
anymore.
Other fighters.
His Twitter got hacked, right? Did you hear that whole story?
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't hear about that.
His Twitter's gone. Someone had hacked his account. They unfollowed everyone, and it's unfortunate. So I think Chas basically said he's just going to be using Instagram. I don't think he's going to try and start up his Twitter anymore. But I agree, because I'd loved having him on Twitter. We used to talk bets all the time.
It's always really fun to connect with fighters like that. That's unfortunate. That makes me sad. But he's the big thing for him is his submission offense. You know, he's a great grappler. He's unorthodox on the feet. He's a little weird. He's got that human backpack thing going on. If he gets to your back, you're in trouble. You do not want him to be there. But he's a submission over position type of guy. He'll dive on something that's not quite there yet, looking for the finish. And sometimes that puts him in bad positions. You mentioned the surgery. You mentioned the layoff. Man, he fought once in 2018. Once in 2019, and he didn't fight at all in 2020. The inactivity is a huge, huge red flag for me, especially when you've got a guy that's getting ever so closer to that ripe old age of 40 that we absolutely love to start fading once they get there. He's a little long in the tooth given the circumstances, and I'm not a huge fan. Jamall Emmers being tall the way he is, long the way he is, his striking is ever improving, and let's not forget, he's a good wrestler. That was always the thing everyone talked about, myself included, leading up to that Giga Chikadze fight was take him down. He was going to just dominate Giga if he mixed in the takedowns, but he chose to stand with a world-class striker, and he went to a split decision. In hindsight, that's an excellent loss. I mean, this kid is up and coming. He's putting it together. He's got great timing on his level changes, and he's got smothering top control. I talk about it on the podcast as often as I can. When you get a solid jiu-jitsu artist and a solid wrestler, you got to give the edge to the wrestler, because when the wrestler gets just that little bit of submission defense under their belt, they're impossible to tap. Trust me, from personal experience, I can tell you there's nothing worse than a defensively sound wrestler on top of you in jiu-jitsu. So I can see Chas Skelly getting stuck on bottom here and just being grinded on by Jamall for 15. And, you know, like you said, that finish is always within striking distance for a guy like Emmers with how athletic and explosive he is. He's got nasty low kicks, too. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. I feel like Jamall Emmers is the play. This is one of those ones where I'm tempted to lay the wood. You know, minus 240 is a big price tag, but I feel like he's very much worth it. So if you're looking for a parlay piece, I don't mind him there, but just keep in mind that Chas Skelly can tap pretty much anybody, so there's always that chance you can end up on the wrong side. But I like Jamall Emmers here a lot, man.
Yeah, I do as well. We'll see. Again, Skelly might show us something we haven't seen before, but I just feel really comfortable with Emmers here. Just having followed his career, I think the upside here is on him. And yeah, we'll see how this one unfolds.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, these old veterans always spring that upset, right? Every once in a while, they'll come out and just show everybody that they're still around. So that's absolutely here and on the table, but I'm not seeing it. I think this is an Emmers spot.